Jim O'Connor from Belfast. I'm sorry to hear about your signs, Walter, and I had some missing myself and vandalized, and maybe we're becoming collector's items for somebody. I don't know, but I was not aware that you had that problem as well. So I kind of could attribute it to perhaps the storm that we had in the wind. But it's unfortunate and to hear that happen.
Storm and the wind, you'd find them around somewhere.
True.
These disappear.
That was Jim Connor running for mayor. He lives down the road over from me, not on Seaview Terrace, but he's close by. His wife owns a business. And I had contacted him to see about, because there's a culvert draining onto his property, what he knew about the city's stormwater. And I was crying to him on the phone. And he was the one who kept after me to go public. Apparently because he was running for mayor so that I could take down City Hall for him. But still, I did go public, and thanks to Jim. And now he runs like the Celtic Festival, and I go there with my signs, and his volunteers all tell me to get the hell out of there. It's anyway, here comes Slocum.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, it's always disturbing to have any citizen come forward and say, I'm not getting access to my government, documents that belong to the community are being hidden from the community. These are pretty serious concerns, that the city is damaging someone, is causing harm to their property. I'm looking for a way to work in a better way with Ms. Allen, who was here a few minutes ago. She has barred me from writing her directly, so she doesn't allow me to talk to her anymore. I can tell you that based upon my investigation, Seaview Terrace is a road that was accepted by the city, but was built by a private developer. When I went to see her, the culvert under the road, which brings the stream from one side of the road to the other, is a culvert under a road simply so the road could continue over the pre-existing stream. I think we have maps going back 40, 50 years, aerial maps showing that the stream is there, and it drains this whole region of Belfast. I understand the mayor himself, as a child, played in that stream. It's not a man-made thing. But I went out to visit Ms. Allen, and I do take her concern seriously, and it's a red area. It just is. But I've also told her I have not seen anything that indicates to me that the city of Belfast is responsible for her dilemma. Across the street from her, it's higher ground than on her side of the street. There are no ditches on the street. There are no storm drains on the street. But periodically, there's a culvert, maybe an 8-inch culvert, that takes water from the north side of the street and takes it to the south side of the street. Between her house and the house next door to her, as people have improved their lots and flattened them out, they've formed ditches themselves, which empty into this same stream. As far as I know, every neighbor, including her, on her side of the street, dumps their foundation drains right into this storm that we're talking about. I have no reason to believe that the records that she's claiming were here disappeared. We went up, she told me which map it was, I got her a copy of the map personally, she said that wasn't the map. She went back up there and she says the map's been removed. We didn't remove any maps from any walls. She then has asked me for a copy of every map of every water channel in the city of Belfast. We do not have a master set of maps of water drainage in the city of Belfast. We just don't have it. And I said to her, that's a very broad request. Do you even want the east side included in that when your home is over at Seaview Terrace and the west side? I've had no response back. I did get a second request that said she would like copies of the drainage down at the intersection of Northport Avenue, which is downstream from her. And I just simply sent a communication. If that's what you want, we'll try and get it for you. But I need to be clear, you want something downstream from you. I don't want you to say, we did not give you what you asked for. I have not heard back from her since. Tonight she's saying, I would like copies of whatever you have about city storm drains in that stream. We'll do our best, but we don't have easily, I've talked to the Public Works Director, the Planning Director, I've looked at my own files. We don't have a master set of drains because this was privately developed property where the city accepted the road. The road is in bad shape, and the reason the road's in bad shape is because there's water right underneath it. The whole area is wet. She herself has sump pumps in her basement. I feel very badly for her. I'm very glad to sit down with her in City Hall at any time, a couple of city council members, and see if we can take this step by step to see what we can do to make sure she has the information she wants without us spending 30 or 40 hours trying to find information she wants that we don't even know exists. I'm very sorry that we're in this situation. I'm very sorry for her stress and her anxiety, but I will remain willing to meet with her and any member of this council and go step by step about her concerns. But I have told her for some time now, I just don't see where the city did something to her neighborhood or to her. And that's just my investigation. I didn't direct any meetings. Wayne Marshall set those meetings up with the state. I had nothing to do with them. I was simply trying to pass on to her what Wayne was already had in process. But if she's willing to come back to City Hall, if she's willing to sit down and talk to me, if she's willing to sit down and talk to a member of this body, or anybody else, our office, our doors are open, and we'll do our very best to help her.
Wayne?
I just note that my initial contact with Ms. Allen came as a result of a project submitted to the Belfast Planning Board, which was the expansion of the hospital. As a result of such, that's where we had discussions. We invited her to the site visits that the planning board conducted. She submitted comment to the planning board during their hearing process on the most recent expansion of the hospital annex property. The planning board considered those comments, and they found that the stormwater system, as proposed by the hospital, met all the standards of the city code. That was the decision. Subsequently, we talked about some concerns that she had about flooding on her property. What I showed her, I blew this map up just 5 minutes ago. What I showed her was the flood map for the city of Belfast. That's really been adopted by the federal government. And Ms. Allen's property is right where that T is on Seaview Terrace. Sorry that Ms. Allen isn't here. Same things I've talked with her about before. As shown on this map, this is the flood zone. This is one of the two major drainage basins in a small watershed within the boundaries of inside the bypass. The other one, major one you pick up on, comes up off the muck, goes up in behind where Walgreens is, goes over in past the fire station, comes down in by the high school, then ultimately outlets into the bay. But it's one of the two big drainages. All of this area has been identified by the federal government as being within the bounds of a flood zone. What they don't tell you, however, is what the flood elevation is. And that's just one of the faults of the government, where they don't do things off the coast. At least not in Belfast, they don't, because it wasn't high enough priority. So we can tell you that it's in the flood zone, but at what elevation will flood, I don't know. And this means it's a 100-year flood. So at some point, what the federal government is saying, and they have been saying this since at least 1990, I don't have the prior map at my disposal, is that the majority of that side of Seaview Terrace has been located within a designated flood zone. I did not compel Miss Allen to get flood insurance. I am somewhat surprised that if she had a mortgage on her property, and I don't know if she does or does not, that the lending agent did not require, because if I look at the map, it says it's in the flood zone, and generally, any of my experience in the last years has been, for the last 10 years, if the property's in the flood zone and you go to get the mortgage holder will require you to get flood insurance. When I bought my property, I'm about as far outside of the flood zone as you can imagine. I had a flood zone determination done on my property to see whether or not I was in the flood zone or not. Just standard practice with most mortgage companies. But this is where it is. There is flooding that occurs. I'm not as sure of the extent of that flooding. I would concur with Mr. Slocum. I don't believe that there's been anything that the city has done. If you look at when this subdivision was created, it was in the 1960s. I pulled the subdivision plan. That subdivision plan shows three things. It shows the size of the lot, the location of the right-of-way, not the road, but the right-of-way in which the road is located, and it shows contours. Most plans in the 60s...
Did you hear, Wayne? He pulled the subdivision plan. There you go. When I asked for that plan, I never got it. And that clearly shows that there was never a stream in there. There was a man-made ditch that was used for runoff from the McLeod trailer park before the US 1 highway was put in. And then after that, they just filled in that ditch and developed, the same guy, McLeod, developed Seaview Terrace, put those houses in and stuff. And I never saw those original plans until I stormed Bob Whiteley's office after he came on tour with me and was horrified in November 24th of 2011. And I figured if there was ever going to be maps out, it was going to be after that tour. And I stormed his office the next morning, and there they were, out on his counter. And he said he was surprised that I had never been shown these development plans, which show there is no natural stream on Seaview Terrace. From there, I went and tracked the water myself, and then I came back in a meeting in December and showed all the water that I found coming into Seaview Terrace. But that's another meeting. Here, let me finish this one.
It doesn't even show contours. But it doesn't show the construction of the road, it doesn't show the construction of a sewer line, a water line, storm drain ditches, or any other thing that you would typically find on a plan today. Things that...
And this guy sitting here with the glasses on, he's with the planning board. He's the one who pointed to my property and said, how would you like to own that property? And started laughing, because he knows all the water that the planning office is forcing into Seaview Terrace. Oh my God.
We typically require today if anyone comes in on a project. Back in the 60s, I'm not faulting Belfast, that was just sort of the case across lots of Maine. People just didn't require data. So that data isn't there. It doesn't tell you that the road should have been here and it should have been built this way, and here's the 10 places where there would have been culverts under the road, and here's where there would have been drainage swales adjacent to it. So I think when they put it in, they just did it. Rightly or wrongly, the city council decided to accept the road. We are where we are today. I don't believe that the city hasn't done anything. I want to assure anyone who is looking in from the public, there is no map that Miss Allen believes exists. That map on our wall, we have not changed.
He is lying. I would never know that there was water coming from across Route 1 by McLeod's trailer park. I wouldn't know any of this. I wasn't familiar with Belfast at all. I came from the next town over in Northport. He is lying.
In probably 5 to 6 years. I can't even remember the last time we changed that map. There is nothing else that I referred to. I did run my hand over a map and talked about some threads of streams that go into City Park because of a DEP permit I'm aware of when the city tried to do a parking lot expansion down next to the swimming pool. And that's the only thing that I referred to.
Why would we be talking about an expansion that was done down in the city park next to the swimming pool? Absolutely ridiculous. This guy is like, there's something wrong with him.
I'm disappointed that I haven't been able to provide better service. I'm disappointed that there's been feeling that things are being done wrongly. I think we went very strongly, as Bob Richards and I spent 2.5 hours on a site visit with all the residents of the neighborhood and with the DEP. The DEP has said to Ms. Allen that they would issue her a permit tomorrow through what's known as a permit by rule to be able to put stream bank stabilization in there. But it's on private property. It is her responsibility. We have no authority to spend public monies on private lands. But that permit's available for $65 as an issue by a permit by rule. In 15 days it would go forward. I was there when Chris Cabot said it. I was there when Chris Cabot explained it. And that's, if there's a concern with the specific erosion, that's a potential option, but it is something that comes at private expense, just as it does on other private properties in Belfast.
Yeah, they sent me down that road. Chris Cabot, it took me forever to get a hold of the DEP to come to my house because part of the stream is wetland regulated. So I'm thinking they should be up in arms when they find out everything that the city's sending to wetlands. Well, they're in on it. And so the permit by rule, I did go to get estimates on that. It was coming back from contractors $85,000 and climbing to stabilize, 150 feet a bank? It was outrageous. So then I contacted McLeod. I got the grandson who developed his father I think it was the grandson, or maybe it was the son. Yeah, it was the son that developed Seaview Terrace. And he told me that I needed to look up at Captain Albert Stevens School. That's where this guy Sanderson, an abutter, had gotten them to reroute the stormwater down to Seaview Terrace, and I needed to start looking at that. So when DEP was here, Chris Cabot told me if I can find a recent outfall of water coming down into Seaview Terrace, then they would research that. So when I found out about Captain Albert Stevens School, I went up there and I found an illegal outlet coming to us. It took me like almost 2 years to get DEP to investigate that, and then Commissioner Aho sent an investigator out. He didn't even go anywhere near the illegal outlet, just looked at basic drainage that's not even being used. We spent all this money to build it, and they're not even using that drainage because they're sending it all illegally down to the watershed residents rather than through the $2 million stormwater improvements to take it down through Miller Street. And when I saw that he didn't investigate that, I got back to Commissioner Aho, and she closed the investigation. Get out of here.
Right? Haven't we heard from other people along that water course because of, and I'm thinking of the work that was done up at
Captain Albert Stevens is number one.
Captain Albert Stevens.
Which came in with the new construction of Captain Albert Stevens School. I know the neighbor, Mr. Sanderson, came before this board as well and expressed concern both about the direction of where stormwater was and the amount of stormwater. We've had concerns from folks who, it didn't go far enough.
Yeah.
This is right on the backside of Birch Street, which is just across from where the old Robertson School is.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there is a slew of water that goes through there. I mean, when...
Illegally. There isn't supposed to be any water going through there. You're supposed to be taking it out to Miller Street. But you're not using those improvements.
Right, and
When community housing
but
arrangements...
if we were looking now, we were looking at a picture of all those, we'd see, what used to be swamps are now a lot of buildings and, driveways and parking lots, and all of it just moves water quicker.
Right here, where it's community housing in Maine, when that project was built in like 2000, the only concern that anyone raised, no one came out and said, I'm concerned about who's going to be living next to me. They talked about stormwater.
Yeah.
See that? Everybody comes out to talk about stormwater, and they don't build stormwater sewers. They just allow the water to go to private properties. And then neighbors send it to each other, and then they end up going to court and suing each other. It's the flooding games. It is unbelievable. But it's only on this side of town. On the other side of town, with downtown Belfast, you got all the stormwater sewers, roads getting paved. They suck up every leaf as soon as it hits the ground. I mean,
And it is unknown that is a stormwater. Certain members of this council own property in the area. It is wet out there.
And getting wet.
I've seen the survey of Ms. Hamilton.
yeah, Nancy Hamilton. How is she even on city council? Her husband is on the planning board. So she's like stacks the votes for the planning board, whatever they need. She owned a property across the street from the city park, which is kind of like in this watershed, and she has sold and moved to the east side, knowing what's coming down the line with the flooding and the comprehensive plan that is now underway, where they're basically just trashing all the residents on this side.
Property, and out of like 2.5 acres, there's only 2 small building sites on the whole lot because of how wet it is. All this property in between that the hospital owns, which they sold to Midcoast Mental Health Services, it's basically unbuildable. The only upland pocket left for Midcoast Mental Health Services is right in here. It's about a 2/3 acre site, but the rest of that is unbuildable. I mean, it's not the best ground in the city. And it is an area that takes a lot of drainage. Again, I'm disappointed in how things have gone. I apologize for anything that I may have contributed to it not going well, but I think that in my own opinion that we've delivered outstanding service and have tried to address every request that's been there and provide direction when appropriate.
Okay, thank you, Lance. Wayne and council, I would just say, if we keep, it's inevitable, we keep issuing permits for big projects upstream, that something's going to happen downstream. And, so I would just, I don't want to talk about it right now, but I would welcome somehow that we address something that, the issue.
Our code directs people to take their water to the public drainages that are out there, streams. That's what our code talks about.
Right, and that's worked in the past, and I accept that if you keep giving them more water, and I'm thinking of people on Cedar Street, was it, who came to us?
Yep.
That they basically were getting more water with no place to get rid of it. So it's a
I
good
would say that
idea.
that's
but-
fairly inherent across a lot of parts of the city because there is inadequate storm sewers.
Right,
Most
which
of the
seems that it becomes our problem at that point.
time.
Yeah.
Difficult to fix.
Yeah.
And they don't fix it.
Anyone else? It's your opportunity.
I vote on high ground.
Seeing none, we'll move along.
The fix is not to fix it. And it lies within this comprehensive plan. As Wayne just stated, this isn't buildable around here, but yet the hospital, it's turned into the healthcare district. So there's something in the works where they're just going to get rid of all the housing in here. He even wrote about it in the plan. Anyway, that's enough for now. Ciao.